Have you ever paused in the middle of a busy day and wondered, whose life am I really living? Are the routines you follow, the career you chase, the relationships you keep, are they born from your own deepest knowing, or have they quietly taken shape from the expectations of others? Sometimes, life can feel like a script handed to us long ago, one we never had the chance to edit. And yet, somewhere within, there is a quiet voice asking, what would my life look like if I truly woke up to it? From the moment we take our first breath, we begin to absorb the world around us. Long before we can choose for ourselves, choices are already being made on our behalf. The clothes we wear, the language we speak, the values we hold, these are woven into us like threads of an ancient tapestry. They are passed down from parents, inherited from grandparents, absorbed from the community, etched in by the invisible hand of culture. As children, we rarely question these gifts. We accept them as reality. A child raised in a family of farmers may grow up believing that the rhythm of planting and harvest is the only true measure of time. Another child, born into a household of academics, might come to see life as a series of degrees and titles to be earned. These early impressions are like a riverbed, carved long before we step into the water. The current pulls us in a certain direction, often without our awareness. Buddhism speaks of this as conditioning, patterns of thought, emotion and behavior that arise from causes and conditions stretching far back into the past. It's not just our personal past, but the collective past of our family, our culture, and even humanity itself. We inherit not only eye color and height, but unspoken beliefs about what it means to be successful, good, or worthy. These beliefs, like heirlooms, are handed down through generations, sometimes treasured, sometimes burdensome, often unnoticed. Consider the young man who becomes a doctor, not because he loves medicine, but because it is the unspoken dream of his parents, or the woman who marries early, because that is what every woman in her family has done. On the surface, these may look like personal choices, yet beneath them lies a deep web of inherited expectations. Like actors, stepping into a role written long before we were born, we often recite lines we never wrote. The Buddha often compared human life to a wheel that spins endlessly, samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. But this wheel turns not only through lifetimes, it also spins through the smaller cycles within a single life. Each time we follow an inherited pattern without question, the wheel turns again. Each time we mistake someone else's voice for our own, the wheel turns again. And yet there is nothing inherently wrong with the inheritance itself. The danger lies in not seeing it. A farmer's life can be deeply fulfilling for the one who chooses it consciously. A life in academia can be a true calling for the one who feels it in their bones. The problem is not in the path, but in the absence of choice. The quiet sleepwalking that keeps us from knowing whether this life we are living is truly ours. Buddhism teaches that awareness is the first step toward freedom. When we begin to notice the origins of our choices, we can hold them up to the light. We can see which beliefs still serve us, and which ones keep us bound. This awareness doesn't demand that we abandon our roots, but invites us to tend them with understanding. In one of the old Buddhist stories, a monk recalls his early life as the son of a wealthy merchant. From a young age, he was trained to manage the family's trade routes, memorize the ledgers, and expand their business. He never thought to question it. He simply followed the path laid before him. But one day, passing through a village, he saw an old man sitting under a tree, his face serene. Something about that stillness stirred something deep within him. It was as if, for the first time, he glimpsed the possibility of another way to live. That moment became the seed of his awakening. In our own lives, these moments may come quietly, through a conversation, a book, a sudden feeling that something is missing. They are invitations to look at the life we are living and ask, is this truly mine? Or is it the unseen inheritance of 1,000 unexamined yesterdays? And here is where the journey begins, not with a dramatic rejection of our past, but with the simple, radical act of seeing it clearly. Only then can we begin to loosen the threads of conditioning, and make space for the life that is waiting for us, patiently, beneath it all. It is said that most people live as if in a dream, moving through the hours and days on a kind of autopilot, reacting to life rather than truly living it. In Buddhism, this state is called avijja, often translated as ignorance, not in the sense of being unintelligent, but in the sense of not seeing things as they truly are. It is a fog that clouds our perception, keeping us from recognizing the difference between what is real and what is imagined, between what is ours and what has been borrowed. Imagine waking one morning to find that you are wearing clothes that don't belong to you. They don't quite fit, too tight in some places, too loose in others, but instead of taking them off, you simply adjust, convincing yourself they are fine. You go out into the world in these ill-fitting garments, never stopping to wonder whose they are or why you are wearing them. This is what it's like to live a life shaped entirely by the expectations of others. We adjust, we adapt, and over time, we forget there was ever an alternative. The Buddha compared this condition to walking through a dark forest without a lamp. We stumble over roots, get caught in thorns, and follow trails we never chose, simply because we cannot see the ground beneath our feet. In such darkness, we cling to the comfort of familiar paths, even if they lead us in circles. But every so often, a flash of light breaks through. It might be a sudden dissatisfaction with the life we're leading, or a deep yearning for something we cannot name. It might be an encounter with someone who seems truly alive, or a moment of stillness, when the noise of the world fades and we hear our own heart for the first time in years. These moments are like cracks in the dream, tiny openings where the light of awareness can enter. One ancient Buddhist parable tells of a man who lived his whole life in a small valley, believing it was the entire world. The valley was comfortable, its paths well-trodden, its seasons predictable. One day, while gathering firewood, he climbed higher than usual and caught sight of a distant plain stretching far beyond the mountains. The sight both frightened and fascinated him. For the first time, he realized the valley was not the whole of reality. This glimpse was enough to unsettle the life he had always known. Though he returned to the valley, he could never forget the vastness he had seen. Waking from the dream of someone else's life often begins like this, not with a complete departure, but with a glimpse that changes everything. Once seen, it cannot be unseen. And from that moment on, the old life feels different. It may still be the same in appearance, but something inside you has shifted. In Buddhist practice, such glimpses are encouraged through mindfulness, paying close attention to the present moment without judgment. This simple act can be profoundly disruptive to the dream. When you bring awareness to your daily choices, what you say, how you spend your time, the emotions that rise and fall, you begin to notice where you are acting from habit rather than conscious intention. Perhaps you see that you take on extra work, not because you truly want to, but because you fear disappointing someone. Or that you avoid certain conversations because you are carrying an old belief that speaking honestly will lead to rejection. These realizations can be uncomfortable, like waking in a dark room to find the furniture rearranged. But discomfort is often the first sign of awakening. The Buddha's own awakening was, in essence, the great act of seeing clearly. He saw that much of human life is shaped by craving, aversion, and ignorance. But he also saw the possibility of freedom, not by rejecting life, but by living it with full awareness. In the same way, waking from our personal dream doesn't require that we abandon everything familiar. It asks only that we learn to see clearly, to question gently, and to choose with open eyes. And when we begin to wake, the dream no longer holds us in the same way. The clothes that never fit can be laid aside. The dark forest once feared can be explored with the lamp of awareness in hand. What once felt inevitable begins to feel optional. And this is where we take our first real steps toward living a life that is truly our own. There is a moment in everyone's journey when the outer noise begins to fade and we find ourselves face to face with someone we may not have truly met before, our own unadorned self. For years, this self has been hidden beneath layers of roles, expectations, and images we project to the world. We wear these layers like masks, changing them depending on who we are with, one for family, one for work, another for friends. Over time, we become so skilled at shifting masks that we forget what our own face looks like. In Buddhist practice, mindfulness and self-inquiry are the tools that help us peel these layers away. To meet ourselves without masks is not about becoming someone new, but about remembering who has been here all along. It is about standing still long enough for the dust of others' opinions to settle, so that the reflection in the mirror becomes clear again. I once heard a story of a laywoman who frequently visited a monastery. She admired the monks and nuns and wanted deeply to live in a way that was aligned with the Dharma. But she also carried the weight of her family's expectations, her work commitments, and the image of success she had built over decades. One afternoon, while helping in the monastery kitchen, she overheard a monk telling another, "When you take off all the masks, you will see the one who has been watching all along." She felt something in her heart stir, as if a door had quietly opened. That night, in the quiet of her own home, she sat still for the first time in years, breathing in and out, meeting the silent witness within herself. This witness, in Buddhist terms, is not the ego or the personality. It is the awareness that sees thoughts arise and pass, that observes emotions without being carried away. To touch this awareness is to remember that we are not just the roles we play, nor the identities handed to us. Meeting yourself without masks requires courage. It can be disorienting to realize that some of the things you've been pursuing for years don't actually matter to you. You may find that the career you've built was more about security than passion, or that certain friendships have been sustained more from habit than from love. These realizations are not failures, they are clearings, spaces where something truer can grow. In Buddhist teachings, there's the story of Vimalakirti, a wise lay practitioner who lived in the midst of worldly life, yet saw through its illusions. He could attend banquets, manage business, and interact with people of all walks of life, all while remaining untouched by the masks they wore. He lived in the world, but not as the world. His freedom came not from rejecting society, but from knowing who he was beyond it. For us, the practice might be as simple as pausing during a busy day and asking, who am I right now without this role, without this task, without this label? The answers may not come in words. Sometimes they arrive as a quiet feeling of spaciousness, as if the air around you has become lighter. The process is not about discarding every role or obligation. Masks can have their place. They help us navigate the practicalities of daily life. But the difference lies in knowing we are wearing them. When we forget, we become the mask. When we remember, we can put it on and take it off as needed, without losing ourselves. Slowly, as we become familiar with the self beneath the masks, we begin to move through life differently. Decisions are made from clarity rather than fear. Boundaries are set without guilt. Joy arises more naturally because we are no longer performing for an imagined audience. We are living in alignment with the quiet truth we have met within. And perhaps most beautifully, when we meet ourselves without masks, we can meet others in the same way. We see beyond their roles, beyond the stories they tell about who they are. We recognize the same awareness shining in them, the same longing to live authentically. In that recognition, relationships shift. They become less about maintaining appearances and more about genuine connection. This meeting with the self is not a one-time event. It is a practice, a continual returning. Some days, the masks will feel heavy again, and that's okay. Each time we remember to look beneath them, we strengthen the thread that connects us to our own truth. And with each return, we step more fully into a life that is ours in the truest sense. To live an awake life is not to escape the world, but to meet it with open eyes and a steady heart. The Buddha did not tell his followers to abandon all their responsibilities and vanish into the forest, though some chose that path. Instead, he offered a way of being that could be lived anywhere, in a monastery, in a bustling city, in the middle of raising children, or running a business. The essence of awakening is not where you are, but how you are. When we have begun to see through the conditioning we inherited and the dream we've been living, life takes on a different texture. The colors are sharper, the air feels clearer, we move with more intention, aware of the choices before us. We stop acting solely from fear, obligation, or habit. Instead, we respond from a place of alignment, where what we do matches what we know to be true in our heart. This doesn't mean life becomes free of difficulty. Challenges will still come, disagreements, losses, unexpected turns. But an awake life is not about avoiding these storms. It's about navigating them without losing our center. In Buddhism, this is supported by principles such as right view, right intention, and compassion. Right view helps us see situations clearly, without the distortion of personal bias or old fears. Right intention ensures that our actions are guided by kindness and integrity, rather than self-interest. And compassion, toward ourselves and others, keeps the heart open, even in hard times. I once met a teacher who embodied this balance. He ran a small shop in a crowded market, serving customers from sunrise to late evening. On the surface, there was nothing extraordinary about his life. Yet people came to his stall not just for goods, but for the way they felt in his presence. He listened without rushing, spoke without judgment, and seemed to move through each day as if every moment mattered. When asked how he remained so calm amid the chaos, he smiled and said, "I sell vegetables, but my real work is to be here, awake, with whoever is in front of me." Living an awake life also means making peace with the fact that we will never control every outcome. Instead of trying to force life into a fixed shape, we participate in it as a living conversation. We speak, we listen, we adapt, we plant seeds of kindness and wisdom without demanding that they grow on our timetable. This is not passivity, it is trust in the unfolding of causes and conditions, combined with the willingness to act where we can. In the Buddhist tradition, there is a practice called bodhicitta, the awakening mind. It is the wish for all beings to be free from suffering, coupled with the commitment to live in ways that support that freedom. When we live from bodhicitta, even our smallest actions, sharing a meal, offering a kind word, taking time to rest, become part of something greater. We are no longer living only for ourselves, but as part of a larger field of awakening. Awakening is not a finish line. It is not a single dramatic moment, after which everything is perfect. It is a continual turning toward clarity and authenticity, again and again. Some days, we may find ourselves slipping back into old patterns, wearing masks, or following someone else's script without realizing it. That's all right. The path is not about never falling asleep. It's about remembering that we can wake up. And so the question returns, are you living someone else's life? If the answer feels uncertain, that uncertainty itself can be the beginning. You don't have to burn the script or walk away from everything. You only have to pause, look honestly at where your steps are leading, and decide whether that direction is truly yours. When we live awake, our days may not look so different from the outside. We still work, care for loved ones, keep our commitments. But inside, there is a subtle yet profound shift. We are not simply doing what we have always done. We are choosing it. We are not sleepwalking. We are here. And in being here, fully, openly, authentically, we discover that life, even in its simplest moments, has been waiting for us all along. May you find the courage to pause, to listen deeply, and to walk the path that is truly yours. The journey of awakening is not about becoming someone else. It's about coming home to yourself. As you go forward, may each step be guided by clarity, kindness, and the quiet joy of knowing you are living your own life. If these reflections have touched something in you, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. What part of this journey resonates most with your own experience? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video so that these words may reach those who might need them today. Until we meet again, may you be well, may you be happy, and may you walk in peace.